This episode of the HR Chat podcast is supported by Deal. Are you looking for an all-in-one solution to manage your global workforce? With Deal, you can easily onboard global employees, streamline payroll processes, and ensure local compliance, all in one flexible, scalable platform. Join thousands of companies who trust Deal with their global HR needs. Visit Deal.com today, that's DEEL.com, to see how you can start managing your global team with unmatched speed, flexibility, and compliance. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy this HR Chat episode.
Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRGazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, this is your host today, Bill Banham. And in this episode, we consider the business case for caring about culture. My guest today is Becky Norman, Managing Editor of online HR and L&D publications HRZone and Training Zone. For the past 7 years, Becky's worked closely with industry practitioners and thought leaders to ensure the publications offer a rich source of real-world insight to a global audience on the biggest challenges for the future of work and learning. Becky is also the co-creator of CulturePioneers, a campaign launched back in 2020 by HRZone to inspire, empower, and celebrate organizations committed to building thriving workplace cultures. And the campaign offers guidance and direction on tricky culture topics while also shining a spotlight on those creating exceptional people-first organizations through its awards program. The next Culture Pioneers Awards is happening in November in central London, and I'm delighted to say that it's going to be supported this year by Disrupt London. Becky Norman, welcome to the HR Chat Show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill.
I can't believe we haven't had you on before now, Becky. It's long overdue. You are obviously a bit of a celeb in the HR world, so it's a delight to get you on. Why don't you start, for those people who are not aware of your celebrity, why don't you start by taking a minute or two and introducing yourself and telling our listeners a bit about your career journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure I'm a celebrity, so I should give some context to my career. So I'm managing editor of the online HR and L&D publications, HRZone and Training Zone. And I've been there for about 7 years, working with industry practitioners and thought leaders to help surface some interesting insight for people professionals on the future of work. And alongside that, I am the co-creator of Culture Pioneers, which is a campaign to celebrate and educate organizations who are committed to building exceptional workplace cultures. And kind of before I landed on these careers, I've kind of flitted around various editorial jobs throughout my career, taking on a range of topics that, to be honest, I had very little passion in. But when I landed at HRZone and Training Zone, I found something that really made me tick. Work makes up a significant proportion of our lives, and so we should strive to make it a fulfilling and energizing experience. So playing a very small part in helping people professionals create better working environments through the guidance and insights that we create on HRZone and Training Zone is where I feel I need to be right now.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, regular listeners of this show will know that I've been in this space since before I was grey, many years now. And it's nice to get an opportunity to talk with another commentator in the space. We have a unique interest and perhaps unique insights into what's going on. What's it like to report on the latest and greatest in HR and L&D, Becky? And as part of that, what excites you about your job?
Yeah, well, as you know, it's a very fast-moving industry. There is lots to cover and report on. So I guess one of the challenges and one of the things that keeps you on your toes is keeping abreast of everything and make sure you're giving your readership all the kind of information and updates they need. So that's something that I enjoy and that challenges me. And another thing is just giving a platform to experts and practitioners and giving them a voice on our platform to share their opinions and their perspectives and putting them forward to our readers. I think that's something that I find particularly enjoyable in my role.
The focus of today's conversation is culture. I wonder what work cultures, you mentioned a moment ago, you came to HRZone and Training Zone, and you felt that you belonged there. I wonder what work cultures and or leaders in your career have inspired you to perform better, to achieve, to strive.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of me being where I am today, it wouldn't be the case if I didn't feel like I belonged in the work culture at HRZone and Training Zone. It's a high trust, highly autonomous culture, a great group of people, and yeah, I feel truly welcomed and included there. Further afield, I think another work culture that I've not been fully embedded in, but I've certainly dipped my toe in, is Perry Timms and People and Transformational HR. Perry Timms is actually a judge for the CulturePioneers Awards, and I've seen his team, had experience of working with his team a lot, and they're truly lovely people. They're very adaptive, they're very progressive, they're always trying new things, playing around with new ventures, and it's a very healthy, energizing and thriving culture to be in. And I feel Perry truly lives and breathes everything he stands for.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HRchat podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at HRGazette.com. And now, back to the show.
We are big fans of Perry Timms on this show. Perry Timms has been on the show, 2 or 3 times, I think, and we've chatted on the HR in Review pod as well. He's spoken at various disrupts, and he has played about with the formats like nobody else, doing, for example, a 10-minute version with 40 slides. What about that? Hey, Perry, if you're listening today, we think you are great. Okay, so you've just published, Becky, a report on modern workplace culture trends. I wonder now if you can tell us what are the trends and how did you identify these commonalities among people-focused organizations?
Yeah, so to give a bit of backdrop on this, we identified these trends through entry data from our CulturePioneers Awards programme. And these awards have been running since 2020, and the organisations that are entering are really invested in workplace culture. So we reviewed 4 years of entry data that we had. We now have 5 years, but at the time of researching, it was 4 years, to identify any common threads running through the years, and also to see what was perhaps something that was quite unique in 2020, quite progressive, and is now quite prevalent among organisations that are invested in organisational culture. So moving on to the 4 trends, first up is that women's reproductive health is finally being taken seriously. Up until recently, women's health issues were largely ignored or in some instances belittled in the workplace. But through relentless campaigning, I'm sure many in the UK will have seen Davina McCall's efforts around menopause awareness. Employers are now starting to pay attention and take these issues seriously. And it's increasingly common among our culture pioneers, and they're quite explicit about striving to create a culture where those experiencing issues such as heavy, painful periods or menopause-related brain fog don't need to suffer silently. Our second trend is igniting career curiosity. So we're seeing an increasing number of organisations who offer more diverse and dynamic career pathways to help individuals thrive in different ways. And that's through experiencing new challenges, projects, secondments, things like that. And ultimately retaining those who wouldn't stay if only the traditional kind of upward career ladder was available to them. The third trend is smart flexibility. So this is pushing against the return to office mandates that I know we at HRZone have been widely reporting on, and I'm sure you have as well, Bill. And the working models and frameworks of many of our CulturePioneers organisations are not just hybrid, where they can be, but they're also really iterative and highly responsive to employee feedback. And in addition to that, they also really incentivise and encourage in-person meetings for moments that matter, not just getting workers back into the office so they can sit and work in silence. So that's our third trend, smart flexibility. And then our fourth and final trend is around securing board level buy-in for inclusion strategies. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of diversity and inclusion initiatives being cut back, investment being cut back, jobs being cut back this year and a few years before as well. And for those organisations who are really desiring meaningful change, they are securing investment and buy-in from the top echelons of the business. And that may seem quite obvious to some, but there has been a lot of DEI initiatives that are launched lower down in the organisational structure, and they lack budget and resource and are quite siloed. But our Culture Pioneer organisations are getting the buy-in from the top so they can really drive that change forward. So those are our four trends in a quick overview. And of course, the report has a lot more details and explicit examples in it.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's talk a bit more about the third, if you don't mind, the trend of smart flexibility. We're 4 years in from the pandemic, shifting the ways that we work, and yet many companies are still struggling to find the right balance, the right hybrid or on-site or remote framework that works for the business and for the employees. I wonder if you can give us your thoughts on how this can be remedied. And also, we're recording this episode at the beginning of September. The episode's going to go live. We're planning on next week. Obviously, in the news very recently has been that employees very soon will have the right to ask for compressed hours, or this idea of the four-day work week. I wonder what your thoughts are around that, and is that just inevitable given what's happened over the last few years?
It certainly is an area where many organisations are struggling to get the balance and the parameters right. So how much flexibility can we give, and when an individual and a business needs, when those needs come into conflict, how do we navigate that? Most of our Culture Pioneers organisations operate a high trust, output focused culture that has really clear parameters around the flexibility that they offer. Hence why we call it smart flexibility. So it's not just about giving the employees all the flexibility that they want to do where, when, and how they work, but to have some clarity around that and room to iterate and adapt the parameters as they go, and seeing, what's working, what's not quite working. And when something isn't working, there is space there to have adult conversations that come from a place of trust and respect for both parties. And if you start from a place of mandates and command and control, you're going to perpetuate the problem, and you're going to see low engagement levels and high turnover. So ultimately, it's about mutual trust and respect, and setting those clear parameters and room to maneuver. And I guess that room to maneuver comes into those changes that are coming into place, and employees being able to request compressed hours and short work weeks. And it's about having those adult conversations and trying to make things work and testing things out and kind of growing as you move forward with what's going on in this space.
This episode of the HRchat podcast is supported by My Staff Shop, the UK's only employee-owned employee benefit provider. We provide a range of competitive and flexible employee benefit solutions to help you improve your employee value proposition. From exclusive deals and discounts to help your people stretch their salaries, to effective reward and recognition programs, and a comprehensive health and well-being offering. We pride ourselves on our friendly and collaborative way of working, putting the interest of our clients at the heart of everything we do. Learn more at mystaffshop.com. Thanks, and now back to the HR Chat Show.
I mean, I think the idea of compressed hours is great. I know Joe O'Connor very well. He's a big advocate of the 4-day work week. He's spoken about that at Disrupt HR Buffalo back in April. My only issue with it, of course, is we're only talking about a proportion of the workforce. How realistic is it for folks in the hospitality industry to have compressed hours? And we all know the struggles of finding talent in industries such as that. But for those that can enjoy compressed hours, I think that's great. And generally speaking, if we can be more flexible with the ways that we work and where we work, why wouldn't we do that? Let's now have a few shout outs from you, if you don't mind, from this research and the awards program. You've seen how 240 different organizations are striving to create a better culture for both the business and its people, Becky. Can you share a few inspiring examples that stood out for you?
So one that really stood out was from our 2023 winner of the Learning Award category from Welsh College. And I'm going to apologise in advance for my pronunciation of this. Welsh College, Coleg Sir and Coleg Ceredigion. So they wanted to foster an environment where their students were being taught by teachers who love to learn themselves. And they aspired to create a culture of curiosity. Now, to do this, they decided to set up an annual action research project where participating teachers had full ownership of what they study, so the topic, the methodology, how the project evolved, and how they communicated the findings at the end of the project. So this really helped reignite passion for the subject they were teaching. And what was great was at the end, they had this kind of festival day where participants came together and they shared their learnings through interactive workshops, and the wider teaching cohort could come and join in and kind of understand the learnings that their teaching peers had taken on this project. And I just thought that was a really nice idea for a ripple effect project that helps keep the love of learning alive among teachers and then in turn among students. Another example is Lewes Football Club. So they were our Inclusion Award winner a few years ago and have been really pivotal to the movement towards sports equality. They were the first football club to have equal paying budget from both the women's and the men's first teams. And they've also helped build a more welcoming and inclusive culture for women football fans. And their campaigning is relentless. It's still going on today. And Karen Dobray, who's on the board of directors, is a real inspiration for those who want to spread positive change, not just within an organisation, but within wider society as well.
For those starting out on a culture change journey, Becky, or not seeing good results from existing efforts, are there any lessons that can be taken from your Culture Pioneers cohort? And I'm going to challenge you to answer that question in 60 seconds or less. Go.
Okay, so the starting point for real change, I'd say, is to ask hard questions. If you don't do this and you don't listen to your employees and make it clear that you are open to hearing their candid responses, you're not going to be focusing on the right thing. And then second, I would say if you're feeling overwhelmed by the extent of work required to get where you want to be, or you're struggling on where the best place to start is with your culture change initiative, I would say start small and experiment with something that's low stakes. So we found that a lot of our culture pioneers do this. They test the water, they're open to failing and then moving on to trying something else. And I think failure feels a lot less scary when it's something that you've signposted as a work in progress, or as one of our culture pioneers calls it, a playground initiative.
Excellent. Definitely under 60 seconds. Good work. Good work. What's next on the agenda for Culture Pioneers? Becky, what can folks expect?
So I'm really excited that we're going to be revealing our shortlist for the 2024 awards on the 10th of September. And then we'll be announcing our winners in November at an event that's not just a traditional award ceremony. It's more of an event where culture passionate professionals can come and hear some interesting talks and hear inspiring culture change stories and meet some very lovely like-minded people.
How can we connect with you, Becky? So is that email address? Are you all over LinkedIn, Instagram, and places like that? And for those who want to subscribe to HRZone or Training Zone, what's the best way to do that?
Yep, so we are on LinkedIn, and you can find our publications at HRZone.com and trainingzone.co.uk and CulturePioneers.com. I can send you all the links so that you can include those in the show notes so that people can subscribe and check out what we're doing.
Excellent. Well, that just leaves me to say for today, Becky, Norman, thank you very much for being my guest.
Thanks very much for having me, Bill. It's been a pleasure.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.